Hello everyone, this is Mason Cook reviewing stories from Jira for the Extendables Capstone project. And let's get into it. The first story is, as an avatar, I want to exist so that I can represent any character in the game. So essentially here I am, I'm controlling a first-person character, I have a first-person camera, I exist in this world, I think. Do we even exist? Never mind. So essentially, the completion criteria for it is the player can see their character's hands and or weapons, which is visible. You can see the hand, you can see the weapon, it's all there. Black and white, clear as crystal. And then the second one is create a general base avatar mesh / primitive. And while it's not visible in the first person view for obvious reasons, there's a separate third person model within the player that allows, like, if there was like a camera watching the player to basically see themselves. And that meets the qualifications, like the 3D model like this mannequin right here. So on to the next one. That previous one is done. So the next one is, as the player, I want to traverse the level so I can progress the story and complete the required objectives. If you look right here, I can move around and jump around. The completion criteria is define a player avatar from the base avatar, and we did that by defining a character from the UE4 character base class, which is pretty easy to work with. Didn't really need to do a lot of work there. And then we have character horizontal movement via input. I can move along this flat plane very easily. It works just fine. And then we have vertical movement via external forces, gravity. And you can see I can jump, and then gravity will bring me back down like it should. And then we have tweak the movement to resemble Half-Life 2, including engine-related quirks like bunny hopping and accelerated back hopping. It's all here. There we go. If you notice, like in the top left, it'll say successful bunny hopping or did not bunny hop. Whoops. Basically bunny hopping is whenever you land while rotating your player view, you'll accelerate a bit further, and the accelerated back hop is a little complicated. Essentially, you jump back in the air, press crouch, and then release your inputs, and then press space as you go. So I'll demonstrate it by doing it along this strip. It's a quirk that was part of Half-Life 2, but later patched out. I felt like it would be good to recreate it for the sake of being faithful to the game. And then implement a jump that allows the player to slightly leap off the ground, albeit with little air control. You can see the player can obviously jump. They can jump up to 1 block, they can jump up to 1.1 blocks. I'll leave that for later. And the player doesn't have much air control when they do it. Let me stand still and try to jump. You'll see I can barely move. It's barely anything at all, so it fits that description. And that's it for the issue. It's done. So moving on to this one, which is, as a player, I want to be able to use the flashlight to see in dark places so I can progress through the level. I can use my flashlight right here, and it'll project light wherever I'm looking, like even at the enemies rudely chasing me right now. And the completion criteria is lights area in front of the player based on their orientation. You can see it changes based on how I'm looking. And then the second one is power automatically replenishes when used up. So let me turn up in-game speed to like 10 times. And you can see it drains and then it recharges. I know it was a little fast, but I wanted to get through this quickly. So that issue is done. There's no problem with it. On to the next one. As a player, I want to apply input to make my avatar reduce in height so that I can get through tight spaces I could not fit in while standing. So you can see there's a crouch. It's all smooth and nice, and it lowers the player height and that sort of thing. The completion criteria is, at the end of the crouch animation, the camera and capsule will reduce in height and the player walk speed will be reduced. You can see I move way slower when doing that. You kind of slide into it before having your movement reduced, just like in Half-Life 2. And the second one is the camera smoothly lowers down when crouching and resets itself when uncrouching, which is also true. That's what it does. It's like if I go under here, I'm like, I can see I can crawl under there, and I'm looking at like this square, and then if I crouch and go back, I'm looking at the exact same thing, so the camera properly resets itself. And that's it for that particular issue. On to the next one. So this one is, as a player, I want to be able to crouch while jumping, so I'm able to get on top of slightly higher objects and or land in elevated tight spaces. Sorry about that. Essentially, you can crouch while jumping, or you can crouch and jump. If you crouch and jump, you basically jump very slightly, or if you crouch, if you jump and crouch, you gain the ability to land on and like mantle over like higher spaces, like right here. So the completion criteria is upon jumping while crouched, the player should jump slightly. Like, look at this. I'll jump very slightly and land on top of there. And then the second one is the player should be able to get on top of certain taller objects, which are normally inaccessible with normal jump, while crouching while jumping. So you see, I can get up there, which I normally can't. Let me try to just do it normally. No, I can't do it. So that works, and that issue is done. On to the next one, which is, as a player, I want to apply input to make my avatar's max walk speed. I'm sorry, these enemies are annoying me. I have to kill them. Alright, now, as a player, I want to apply input to make my avatar's max walk speed increase significantly so I can get across the level faster. Which basically means the sprint. Look at this. Now I'm sprinting. And now, the completion criteria is, upon input, a sound effect is played to convey the increase in speed to the player. Yeah, if you listen closely, there's like a whoosh sound effect, and that's it. That helps indicate like that the player is now sprinting. And the next one is, sprint allows for faster movement in any direction. Unlike some games, you can actually sprint in any direction in Half-Life 2, and that's reflected here. I can sprint backwards, I can sprint forwards, I can sprint left to right. Anything goes, even diagonal. So, the next one is, sprint is properly interrupted during edge cases, such as with stopping, running out of energy, and being grabbed by a barnacle. So if I run out of energy, I'll just show you here. I will stop sprinting. You see that? And now, if I stop, if I let go of W, I stop sprinting as well. And if I get grabbed by a barnacle too, I stop sprinting. Let me get out of his grasp, or their grasp. And that's all of the completion criteria for the sprint. Works very well, and on to the next one. And the final one is, as a player, I want to be able to jump while sprinting, so I can accelerate my horizontal movement and jump across greater distances. So right here, you can see some of the metrics that we have laid out, like how you can jump 4.5 blocks as a maximum. Keep in mind, this is a maximum, not necessarily a recommended length for making jumps in level design. You probably go a little lower to take players' like error into account to make level design less frustrating. But still, this is how far you can jump at a maximum. Like, I don't want to fall off and have to walk all the way back there, but like, you can see I can jump while sprinting for 5.5 blocks, among other stuff. And the completion criteria is the camera changes height with the player avatar as they move on the vertical axis. You can see when I jump, camera moves with me. Very simple. If I fall down, camera moves with me. Very simple things. And the last one is the player moves faster in the air when jumping forward or diagonally. So you may have seen earlier, like, compare my normal walking speed to, I jump forward and now I'm just like flying faster through the air. And it works diagonally too, as you can see. So you can kind of zigzag. So that is all of the issues done. I managed to get all of them done this time around, thankfully. So now I will pass this over to Taylor for him to talk about his issues. And I would like to thank you for watching.
Hello, my name is Sarah Tomescu. I am a part of the Extendables Capstone team, and today I'm going to be showcasing the issues that I have worked on. The first issue in the game that I have worked on is the camera issue, and as the camera, I want to be the eyes of the player's avatar in order for the player to visually perceive the environment in front of them. And so, as you can see, I am the camera. Or you can see the world around me through the camera that is attached to the player's avatar. The completion criteria for this issue is that the horizontal and vertical rotation of the camera via the player's controller, which is either the right analog stick or the mouse, can be used to traverse the player's surroundings. As you can see, I can do that. The camera rotates when the player rotates. That is also true. Camera moves when player moves. I am currently navigating around the level, and that is true as well. Movement and rotations are always match the player's orientation. So no matter which way I'm looking, I will be walking in that direction. Camera constraints are restricted to the 90-degree angles of up and down. So that's negative and positive. So I can look 90 degrees up, and I can look 90 degrees down. And I can't look any farther than those two. And sensitivity variable can be customized, so if you hit the P key is the input, there is a slider that pops up. So you can either increase it to the maximum and you can have ridiculous sensitivity, or you can go ahead and decrease it to the lowest for lowest sensitivity. So you can customize that however which way you want for whatever feels comfortable to you. Me, you like to sit at like 25%. So the next issue that I worked on is for the character's starting weapon. So as the player, I want to have a starting weapon that deals long-range damage to enemies and has abundant ammunition so that I can combat enemies in the early stages of the game. And so this culminated in terms of our pistol. So as you can see, I can shoot the pistol, and the completion criteria for it is that it shoots on player input. So with mouse 1, that is left mouse button, I can go ahead and shoot the pistol, and it registers hits on nearby objects and surroundings. And the next completion criteria is that it deals damage when shooting enemies. So if I go up to an enemy here, and I go ahead and shoot him in the butt, he registers that damage, and he falls over, dead. Usually around 4 shots for one of our weaker enemies. Sometimes 5 if one of them miss. Next in the completion criteria is adding a reticle so that the player can aim, which you can see a red reticle in the center of the screen. It puts a... Oh, I'm going to reload that. Goes ahead and puts around where the player is aiming. Gun has limited ammunition and must reload after 18 shots. So as you just saw, I shot 2 rounds there. So that will be 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 15, 1. After I fire the last round, the gun is empty. And then I'm going to have to reload the gun there. And then the last completion criteria for this weapon is that gun has a fire rate cap around 600 RPM on tap fire. That's with the left mouse button. Or 150 while holding down mouse 2 for the automatic fire. So with mouse 1, you see I can shoot at a pretty high rate of fire. But with mouse 2, you have an automatic fire mode, which sort of shoots at a slower rate, but you don't have to spam fire the thing. And for the next issue, this goes with the weapon reload, so that the player can reload and continue to shoot. So the story for this one is, as the player, I want to reload my weapon with ammunition whenever the ammo count is at 99% or lower, so I can continue firing. So let me go ahead and extend. And now I am at 13 bullets. So for the completion criteria, on input, reload the equipped weapon. So on input with the R key, the weapon will drop down and you will reload. And as you can see, I had 18 rounds. Now I have 17 because I fired one. On empty, the avatar automatically reloads when equipping the weapon. So once it hits 0, I go ahead and try to shoot again, and it automatically reloads the weapon because it's empty. And as you saw, I've been reloading this whole time. So the last completion criteria is weapon must have spare ammo in reserve. So I do have about 150 rounds in reserve. That was the default for this build. But I will go ahead and showcase in a bit here that there is spare ammo in reserve that you'll be able to see. Alright, so for the final issue, as the player, I want to be able to pick up and find ammo to replenish my guns and grenades. So description, no, sorry, not description. For the completion criteria, the first here is drops from supply crates, so you will be able to find ammunition in supply crates such as these. So let's just break a few of them open. So nope, that's a battery. And there we go, that's an ammo pickup. So let's go ahead and spend my so I go ahead and reload. Okay. So let's go ahead and reload again. And so the next completion criteria is scattered around the level. So if I go and shoot a couple more of these supply crates, there are ammunition pickups littered throughout. Third completion criteria can be picked up mid-combat. So let me go ahead and antagonize this player. Let me go ahead and antagonize one of the other ones. I don't think that one's set for, yes, right, this one. Right, so this one is going to try and charge at me. So I go ahead and run away. I gotta go pick up some ammunition. So as you can see in the top right, I had this much ammo, 125, and now I have 143. So now I can reload. Abundance of ammo again. So can't be picked up if ammo is full. I can go ahead and reload. If I go ahead and try and pick up, let me see if I can get to the max ammo again. Okay, so there you go. So I'm at max ammo in my supply, which is 150. I cannot pick up this this pickup here because I am full on ammunition. And the last completion criteria is only spawns ammo for weapons you have. So right now, the only weapon that we have that is ranged is the pistol, and the only ammo that can be dropped for that weapon is pistol ammunition, which is those yellow boxes. All right, that has been my showcase. Thank you very much.
Alright, as previously stated, my name is Robert Hughes, and I'm going to be talking about the stories I worked on for the project by Team Extendables. Alright, first things first. As the player, I want to be able to make a barrel explode by shooting or hitting it. This depends on avatar interactions and equipment. The completion criteria are: it can be picked up, it can be thrown, and this also applies to the gravity gun. The gravity gun can pick it up, and it can throw it. And as you see there, once it's thrown, it explodes. This can be figured out from the description. We will want to implement destructible barrel objects that spawn a particle emitter to represent an explosion effect, create a damage volume that damages any nearby enemy avatars, and or enables the destruction of physical objects near environmental objects, and then remove the barrel object from the game viewport. So I'm going to switch back here to the default gun, and I'm going to go over here to grab this, and we're going to head back over here. So with the default gun, if you shoot the barrel twice, it ignites and then explodes. That ignited, exploded, and it causes chain reaction. That is that for the barrel. As the player, I want to have a tool that breaks objects and acts as a melee weapon against enemies so that I can progress to the object. That would be the crowbar. It swings upon player input of the left mouse button, once it hits a object, like so. It breaks objects after a certain number of hits, and it deals damage when hitting enemies. As an avatar, I want to have a value of health so that I cannot live forever. The completion criteria for this is there is a health pool defined from 0 to maximum, which that is the case because the player is under 100 right now, and if I activate the AI, they will come and set my health down to 0 after a couple of hits. There is a method of damaging an avatar without it going under 0, as you will see once I get attacked here by more. And upon hitting 0, I enter a dead state, which causes my camera view to turn red and stop player movement. As you can see, it flashed red there, and I wasn't able to move. Now I am. And last but not least, as the player camera, I want to display a white screen after being hit by certain guards to convey their reset. So I will just shoot him. Now if I go over here to this guard, I can show this. The player location is reset to a location specific to where the occasion occurred. If I do not pick up the can, I go. And I am reset to where I was bashed. I now will throw it to the next member of Team Expendables. Noah.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Span, and this is my video on completed issues for GDP Milestone 1. So the first issue we'll be looking at today is, as the player, I want to use the HEV suit to track health, energy, absorb damage, sprint, and breathe underwater using auxiliary power so I can keep on living. So to show that off, we'll pick up the suit, which puts on the HUD and tracks all of your vitals and your auxiliary power. So to track health, I set up this pain volume to demo this, and the pain volume does 10 damage per second, but the suit is set up in a way that 80% of the damage will be absorbed by the armor, and only 20% of the damage will be absorbed by the player's health. So we step into this, we can see that every second. We'll see 8 go to the suit, and 2 go to the health. Okay, and then absorb damage, which we just did. Sprint, which if you hit the left shift, you'll hear the dashing sound and you'll see the sprinting in the bottom left, and auxiliary power gets drained. There's a pain volume there, that's why I just died. Big one. And then breathe underwater. If we go over here, we can see that happen. We use auxiliary power to breathe underwater. So the completion criteria for this ticket issue is the first one is health and battery can be replenished with respective chargers. So we go over here, let's do some damage. And then we go to the health charger. This health charger regens at 10 health per second. So if we hit E on it, it'll regen. Okay, and then suit charger regens 10 armor per second. And if we go above either of these, it'll play an error sound, letting the character or the player know that they are at max health or armor. And then we have sprint time is 9 seconds for the player. That's because the sprint drains at a rate of about 13% per second, but it takes a second for it to start requiring auxiliary power. So I can show you that here. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that paint volume messed me up. Hold on, let's try this again. Right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And then flashlight time. I won't make you wait for this one, but it drains at a rate of about 2.5% per second. So that means the flashlight will last 41 seconds for the player. And then time underwater takes about, you have about 15% or 15 seconds underwater because the oxygen drains at a rate of about 7% per second. Keep in mind that 1 second activation time at the beginning, that's why it adds another second onto it. Otherwise it's 14 seconds, 40 seconds, and 8 seconds. The next completion criteria is that the auxiliary power replenishes automatically. So if I sprint and I stop, you can see that the auxiliary power will regen all the way up. Okay, and then the next completion criteria is auxiliary power activates when the player sprints or uses the flashlight, which I just showed you. Sprint, drains, flashlight, drains, and then suit displays health changes when damaged. I've showed you that a couple times, but for the sake of this video, I'll show you again. Okay, and then the next issue I'll be showing off is, as a player, I want to be able to find and pick up medkits to replenish my health. So we keep our items right now in these crates. But if you see, there's some medkits right there. So if I step over one, it'll replenish 15 health. And I have those stats right here. And then the completion criteria for this ticket are can't be picked up when health is full. So if I go over here and I charge up my health, okay, and then I go over here and I try to pick up one of these. Should get an error. Yep, I get an error. It only plays it once, because in Half-Life that's how they do it as well. If you walk over this pickup once and it plays an error sound, and it won't do it again, because that would be kind of annoying if you just kept running over it. But it works once for each pickup. And then the next completion criteria is can be picked up mid-combat if found. So pain causing volume does a lot of damage. Okay, so let's get one of these guys aggravated. Okay, so run back, pick one of these up. Thank you. The next issue we'll look at is as a player, I want to find and pick up batteries to replenish my HEV suit's energy. So batteries are also another pickup, and it's this green almost battery looking mesh. And if I step over it, it'll give me 12 armor. The completion criteria for this is, sorry, I have to alt tab and scroll down, is can't be picked up if energy is full. So find another one. Oh, there's one over there. Okay, so let's charge the suit. Okay. And then over here, and if I run over this, I should get an error. Yep. And doesn't pick it up, and does not change my armor. Alright, and so for the next issue, we'll look at, as the player, I want to be able to use a recharge station so that I can regain full charge on my HEV suit, which we've done, but I will do again. Audio feedback, regions 10 armor per second, and once you get to the max, it caps out, does not let the player go over 75. For completion criteria, we have the player can interact with the HEV charge station, which is what the sphere trace does right here. And then the next completion criteria is the player can regain charge by using the HEV recharge station, which I just showed you, but I'll do it again. And then the last issue I'll be showing off today is, as the player, I want to be able to use a healing station so that I can regain full health. And since we're already at 50 health, that makes this easy. We can just go straight over here, and we can just hold E, and it'll take us all the way up to full health, and then cap us off. And it plays that little heartbeat, or that heartbeat monitor sound, that bleep, every second as well. The completion criteria on this one are very similar. It's the player can interact with the health recharge station, which is what the sphere trace does again. And the player can regain health by using the recharge station, which you saw regain health. Okay, and that completes my issues for GDP Milestone 1. Thank you for watching, and I will hand it over to Benjamin Flagg.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Flagg. I'm part of the Extendables Capstone team, and this is our Pre-Production Milestone 1 submission for our sprint goal. And I'm going to be reviewing the user stories that I have worked on during this project, or this first milestone. So let's get started. So, my first user story for this milestone was, as the player, I want to be able to press a key via input that enables me to interact with objects in the environment so that I can do different actions, such as picking up certain objects or opening doors. And my completion criteria for this, the first was add E key on the keyboard, input functionality. So for that, speaking of doors, we have pressing E will open and shut doors. It will do things like turn lights on and off. This is sort of kind of a sneak peek for later, but it also will pick up and drop objects. And it is using a trace, and it is context sensitive. So it depends on what it hits, that trace, it will do different things depending on that implementation. The second completion criteria is add trigger or collider volumes to interactive objects. That, again, is sort of dependent on what it's hitting. Different things are taking that in different ways, depending on, some are line traces, some are sphere traces, some are colliders. Some I kind of changed during the process, just found more efficient means to do that, but other ones still use colliders as well. So that pretty much wraps up the first user story that I had, so we can go ahead and move on to the next one. My next user story is, as the player, I want to pick up and throw objects around me to solve puzzles and kill enemies. So, for instance, the first completion criteria that I have for this is, the objects have physics-based on weight and size. So for instance, if I were to use that E key and pick up different objects and throw them, say, over here where we can measure it, some of them will go pretty far. That was decent. Depending on the actual object itself. Let's try this heavier box. Trying to avoid alerting these zombies during this demonstration. Travel not quite as far. Oh, there's one activated. He's not happy. And then there are other, lighter objects that go a little bit further, and that is just with the basic throw. So they do all have different types of physics. Also, if you shoot them with the gravity gun, they will behave appropriately, but we can go over that in a little bit too. So objects can be dropped, kind of relating to that with that E input functionality. If you pick, oops, that was the wrong one. If you pick up different objects, you can drop them. You can drop them via the E key. You can drop them if you press the right mouse button, which is a one-to-one reference. And that is dropping them versus the throw that I kind of showed earlier. Next, completion criteria can break objects that can be broken. So these crates, in different ways, since we are mentioning dropping them, these, actually, here, I'll show this. So for the default pistol, they actually do take damage. Oops, hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that. Had a system background app interrupt. We were at the can break objects that can be broken. So these crates not only take damage from things like pistols, breaking apart eventually, and they do accumulate damage as well. So if we, for instance, were to drop things enough, eventually they would start to, let's see if I can get one to not quite drop there. Alrighty. So yeah, they do end up, depending on how hard you hit them, eventually they will break apart and accumulate damage. The next completion criteria I have is deals damage when thrown at enemies. So for these objects I can pick up and throw, depending on the object, it will deal damage to them in different ways. So for instance, if we were to pick up, say, a explosive barrel, and this can be done either the pick up and throw or with the gravity gun. That guy got in the way. Let's see. So launching those at enemies will deal damage. These don't quite do as much, so generally it's probably not going to kill them. But let's try something else. These saw blades, for instance, will cut enemies in half. Wow, that was an intense one. So depending on how hard you hit them, they will take different kinds of damage, which we can go into in a little bit here as well. And for instance, they also react differently depending on that damage. So this guard, if you pick up the can but then throw it at him, he gets angry. And that is something that Brennan will go into in just a little bit as far as the AI is concerned. So that pretty much wraps up that user story. I'm going to refresh this actually, just so we can get back some of those physics objects and move on to the next one. My next user story is, as the player, I want to be able to pick up and break objects to clear a path forward. This one is kind of actually redundant as far as my last user story was concerned. But I try to implement the functionality a little different as far as logging work and uploads to Perforce. So I'll try and show off a little bit of related, but different ways that you can use these kind of similar, if not very redundant, user story completion criteria. So, for instance, the first completion criteria, destroys on collision with another object. That we have seen how they do break apart. But for instance, you can do that in different ways. So these boxes, if you throw them into another box, they will destroy, again, depending on how hard you throw them. Has physics based on weight and size is the next one. That actually is something we have already gone over. So again, that is an issue that was a repeat as far as that completion criteria. So I kind of spent that time kind of tweaking and implementing different code functionality and improving it where I could. Next, can be thrown and dropped, and the one after that, deals damage when thrown enemies, are also sort of redundant. So this is kind of one that, as far as the completion criteria, is a little redundant. The user story is a little different between those. So breaking objects, picking them up, clear path forward, similar to the last one where you could solve puzzles. For instance, to get up here, this is sort of related to the last user story, but I'll show it off now. First, let me get rid of these zombies that are chasing me. They are going to be a problem. Although, I can also show this. So say I want to escape from this zombie. I can do a couple things here. Let's try and see, without dying, if we can get up there using just the physics. Okay, so that came off on us. Oh, no, hurry. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Okay.
Push.
And, almost made it. Let's try one more time. Actually, you know what? I am going to get rid of these guys, so they're going to be a problem. Goodbye, zombies. Alrighty, so now that we've done that, we can kind of see if we can still get up here. So I'm going to leave that there as a block, and now if I, let's see if I can get it right there. Yeah, alrighty, we got to the star. Took a little while, but we made it. So, again, a lot of kind of repeat stuff, but that is how you'd use puzzles to solve different things. It could also be implemented in the future in different ways. Like for instance, you could use these if you wanted to continue to move over like a hazardous area, such as water, which we'll get into later as well. Next up, let's see here. We're not going over it yet. I think that brings us to the last one, which is the gravity gun. So once again, I'm going to stop and restart this, just so I can get our physics objects back. So as the player, I want to have a weapon that manipulates inanimate objects as well as repulses certain types of enemies so that I can solve puzzles and manipulate the environment. So for this one, the first completion criteria would be shoots weapon on player input. So for this one, when we switch to the gravity gun, which there are, for testing purposes, implemented different one-to-one, for the purposes of testing at least, one-to-one ways to switch as far as key mapping. You can go directly to the gravity gun with G, which also switches the mesh just so it's easier for us to tell it that we've changed that gun at this point. You can switch with the number keypads, as well as swap back and forth with Q and different things such as that. So that is the actual switching. Now let's get to the actual shoots on weapon input. So regarding this one, I'm actually going to roll into the next one and show how it shoots with the input, which will complete both of the following criteria. Picks up inanimate objects in the world. So similar to throwing, but different. This to throw and pick up objects, you have to get close to them, and you can drop them directly. They don't go too far if you just throw them with your hand. There is sounds to let you know that you're picking them up and dropping them, which are different than the gravity gun. So for this one, if you press the right mouse button when you have the gravity gun equipped, it will pull physics objects that are marked as such in the game directly to you, and from that point you can drop them, which also has sound effects to let you know, but you can also fire them off with the gravity gun and they will go much farther, again kind of dependent on physics. Shattering, as you saw, these will cut zombies in half if you throw them at them. Can be used to hopefully kill that guy. And yeah, so there's different ways. Again, with this over in the metrics area, we can see just how much further this will go. So let's do this. With your standard throw, that goes about 10 blocks. With the gravity gun, we can make it much further. And actually, since I threw that over the wall, let's get this one and toss it. So that actually made it just about that far, 50 blocks. It does pull from about 10, sometimes 20 blocks, depending on the object, away from you. So you can get things quite far. But that is the ability to pick up and throw objects. Comes in very handy when you have guys that keep chasing you, like these guys. Now let's see if we can time that. Oh, just about. All right. Next, repels inanimate objects on the input. So if you press the left mouse button as opposed to the right mouse button, which will draw objects to you. Oh, I should mention if you do draw objects to you and you want to throw them, once you've pressed right mouse button, you throw them with the left mouse button. Oops, there we go. So repels objects on input. That is more of a impulse wave. So if you press left mouse button, you can do things such as hit cubes, blow them apart, send them flying, have all kinds of fun. And these also react based on weight, so don't travel as far. But yeah, that is repulsing with that. And dealing damage on infected enemies, that is, again, kind of something that's redundant, but it also is based on what they are hit with. And you can eventually deal damage if you hit them enough times, even with things like shooting that at them. All right, I'm going to do this one more time, I believe. And yeah, that actually pretty much wraps up most of the gravity gun and physics related things that I have worked on. There's a lot of different implementation which you'll see that you can do in the future, especially with the AI. But I am going to go ahead and thank you for watching this part of my presentation of Milestone 1, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Brendan Flanagan. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Simmons. This is the capstone video for Milestone 1. I am on the team The Expendables. My first issue that I'm going to be going over with is as a guard, I want the player's camera to flash a translucent red when hit with my baton. The description reads as, we should make an event that triggers when the player gets hit with the baton. This should make the screen flash red. The completion criteria reads as, when hit with the baton, the camera flashes red. Okay, so let's make our way over to the guard here and get hit with the baton.
Bush.
We have to get hit a couple times. See, now we just got hit with the baton.
Bash.
So that again, and the screen flashes red. Going on to the next issue, it reads as, the player, I want to be able to find and break open supply crates to replenish my health, ammo, and suit energy. What the description is, we want to be able to implement destructible environmental crates, objects that can be shot, melee hit by the player, that when hit destruct using physics or particle emitter effects that spawns health, ammo, battery packs. These will behave like standard pickups, and when the player avatar collides with them, will increase the player health pool, ammo, health, etc. The completion criteria is to be scattered around the level, and then have the objects appear when they break out, when we break the objects. So let me first grab our suit that will display our HUD. And now walk over here and take some damage over here. And as you can see, our display crates are throughout the level. I can shoot and break the crates, and I can hit them with the crowbar. I can even take the gravity gun and blow them apart with the gravity gun. and fire them at one another. I can hit the E key and break them apart that way. And as you see, we get suit pickup, ammo pickup, and health pickup. Going on to my next issue. As the player, I want to be able to pause the game so that I can take a break, quit to the main menu, or reload a previous save. In the description, we should create a menu that display the player via input. This menu should also stop the game in its current state. Completion criteria is a pause menu is displayed to the player through an input key. So I'm going to hit the O key, and when I hit the O key, the menu pops up. I can hit O again and toggle it back off. And the next completion criteria have a resume button to be able to play. I can click on resume, and I can move around and move freely again. And the next completion criteria is to have a menu button to be able to go back to the menu, so I can hit quit, and this will bring me back to the main menu, and then I can hit start again, and the game will start back like normal. I can also, the next completion criteria is have an option button that will let you adjust game settings. We'll hit options, go to sound effects, and move this slider down. We don't have any music in the game yet, so the music slider is set up to work, but we don't have any music at the moment. But as you can see, you hear no footsteps when I move around, you hear no gunshots, but the game is playing like normal. I can open the menu again, go to this bar, move it up, hit resume, and we get our sound. The next completion criteria is have a quit that will close out of the application. So I can go to, hit O, bring up the menu, hit the quit button, and then hit go to desktop. And this will close out the application. And then we can reopen the application, and I will go on to my next issue. The next issue is, as a player, I would like for there to be a menu when I first load up the game so that I can choose and adjust settings, start a new game, or load specific save data. In the description, we should display a menu to the player when they first load the game, so it has buttons on the left side of the screen with cutscene playing on a loop in the background. And the completion criteria is display the name of the game, which right now we have the Expendables Capstone. Have a new game button that starts a new game, which that's what this start button is. Going back to the menu, I am hitting O. Back to the main menu. Have an option button to adjust the settings. Have options, and we can go to sound, and we see the same sliders as before. And have a quit button that will take you out to the main menu. Well, not to the main menu, but back out to the desktop. And starting the game again, and moving on to the next criteria. Which as the player, I would like there to be a button that shows the credits in the main menu. The description reads, we will add a credit button to the main menu that will show the names of everyone that worked on as in the team and show the references that we have used. The completion criteria, we will have a credit button in the main menu, which you can see the credit button is right here. And when clicked, it will show the information in a box that has a slider on it. As you can see, we have meet the team, the name of everyone on a team. We have the slider over here on the right, and if you use the scroll wheel, you can scroll through and you can see our references, everyone that's on the team, and of course this will be updated as we continue. And we'll also have a back button right here that I just clicked so that we can go back to the main menu. Okay. And the next issue that I worked on is, like a barnacle, I want to be able to snag anything my tongue comes in contact with, pull it up to my body so I can attempt to eat it / attack. The description is barnacles are placed on the ceiling with their tongue hanging down just above the surface of the floor. Okay, let's start the game. Let's go over here to where the barnacles are. So the completion criteria: physics-based objects can be captured by the tongue. So let's go over here, grab this, and as you can see, it gets captured by the tongue. It gets picked up, and it gets spit back out again.
Blah.
Enemy players and characters can get stuck in the tongue. See, the player gets stuck in the tongue, and let me go grab health real quick so I can show that the player is taking damage. There we go. Now we have our HV suit. We can see the player is taking damage.
Blah. Blah. Blah.
And we can see over there an AI is also getting caught up. And if we change to a gun and shoot, we can do damage to them. And in mid-shot, we can shoot and be let go. And that is all for the barnacle. That's all for my main issue. I did fix some bugs. One of the bugs that I fixed was the camera didn't turn red originally when we was first killed. Which I come over here and take some damage. And you can see the screen turns red and we died and it is reset. The next bug that I took, the crazy didn't take enough damage or force from projectiles to blow apart enough to access the pickup that spawns. So what I did to fix this is I decreased the lifetime of the particles that broke apart, so that way they can despawn and the player can get to what lies inside of the breakable. Well, that is what I have worked on for this sprint. I had a very fun time with this sprint. I look forward to continue working with my team and on this project. Once again, my name is Jeffrey Simmons. I'm part of the capstone team, the Expendables, and I will hand this over to Brendan. He is next up to talk about his issues.
Hello, my name is Brendan Flanagan, and I am here to demonstrate my JIRA issues for the first sprint. I'd like to start with my guard issue, which is BGXD-32. The user story states that as a guard, I want to be able to push, bash, and stun the player so that I can restrict their path choices.
Hey, you, pick up that can.
So if I wanted to get through this door, we can see that the guard does push. And the completion criteria states that the guard stands their ground, the guard pushes the player if they get too close,
Push.
which he does, Now it states that the guard bashes the player if they've been pushed twice. This guard has pushed me twice, so now he bashes. The last completion criteria is that the guard stuns and resets the player after being bashed twice. So there's the second bash,
KO.
and there's the stun and reset. That reset location is a per guard location that can be put anywhere in the world. And we can see that
Push.
each guard has their own
Push.
push, bash, bash,
Push.
knockout cycle.
Bash. 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 KO. KO.
So each one can go through the two pushes, 2 bashes, and the 1 KO. So moving on to my next issue. This issue is BGXD-38. As a zombie, I want to become active when a player enters an area and begin searching for them and attack them when I am close enough. So starting off with becoming active, we can see that they are not active. But if I step into the trigger zone, oops, guard knocked me out, they become active. So right now the completion criteria for the zombies is just that they are inactive when no player is around, and that head crabs can become active after killing a zombie without a headshot. They will also attack when they're in range. So this zombie has no head crab. This zombie does. And we can see that it becomes active after killing the zombie. So pulling up my head crab issue. The head crabs are BGXD-36. As a head crab, I want to randomly wander until I locate the player. When I see the player, I want to jump at the player to attack them. The completion criteria states that a single impulse of damage is dealt when the player is successfully attacked, and that after a successful attack, the head crab will fall to the ground, do 1 random wander, and then repeat the search and attack process. And there it is. It also states that he needs to impart only a single impulse of damage, so if I can get him to attack me again, we can see that there's only 1. You can dodge it, by the way. Alright, so moving on to my next issue. BGXD-33. As a developer, I want to have a level in the engine that demonstrates our systems and physics setups as they are developed. So this entire world and everything you've seen in everyone else's video is our metrics level. And just to show that it does demonstrate some physics setups, along with everything else that you've seen, we do have a setup that helps you get on top of a place that you cannot otherwise reach. Just to show that physics setups will help the player in the world. So that would be it for my issues, my guards that do 2 pushes.
Bash.
Well, I guess I already gave a push out of him.
Push.
Then 2 bashes.
Bash.
And then the knockout.
KO.
So that's met. This is something extra. I do have
Okay, you can go through.
that you can satisfy a guard and get through. And then these zombies having an activation zone, we can see that none of these zombies are active. And now they are because I walked into their zone. They die. Head crabs become active. They can die. And I can win if I get to the end of this. Woohoo! If I survive. Alright, thank you for watching.